If you are trying to achieve a more natural accent in American English, then I have some good news. We're about to show you 5 tips with the help of native speakers that you can immediately start applying to your own English, and you'll automatically start sounding more natural. My name is Jeff, rhymes with breath, and I'm here to kind of guide you through these steps. Let's take a look at our first one here.
Ventura City and
Did you see what happened with her lips there? I'm going to play that one more time.
Ventura City and
Particularly see it there when she said, it's like, serve our city, serve our city. Did you notice that her lips are barely moving?
Ventura City and
Just to highlight one of the key features. I mentioned earlier that breath and rhymes with Jeff. And the reason that's important is because breath is one of the 4 most important concepts in American English. If you are able to use your breath when you're talking to link things together, what you do with your lips is much less important.
Ventura City and
You're moving, for instance, from serve our city, our city, our city. Notice that we don't have to really go crazy and say like our city or things like that. The lips can stay pretty static in American English. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is to worry less about where you're putting your tongue, how wide your mouth is, or how close it is. Worry more about making sure enough air is moving through your throat and your diaphragm. Worry more about having the right placement. We're not talking from like up here or up here in my nasal cavity. We're trying to talk with a low placement projecting from our throat chest area, not from a higher position, and that's going to allow us to make lots of sounds in American English with less movement of our lips and actually achieve a more natural sound. Guys, that's our very first tip in American English. If you're learning things as we go through this, one way you can help me is just pressing like. That tells everyone that this is a video that's worth watching. Hello to Shok. Thank you so much for checking in. We appreciate you as always. Let's take a listen to our second clip now.
Really consistently.
I'll play it one more time.
Really consistently.
Something that I see a lot with students in American English is that when we have a final sound like E, a lot of students are reducing it. So instead of saying a word like really, they end up saying really. Or instead of saying consistently, they end up saying consistently. Obviously, that sounds a little bit different. Listen again to this example here.
Really consistently.
Really consistently. So holding that E sound. Another bonus tip too is let's talk about pitch. It's like really. So the E sound is not usually stressed. So that means that you want it to be a little bit faster and you also want it to have a lower pitch. Really consistently. So making sure that those E's are not the highest pitch.
Really consistently.
Hear how much lower the E's were there. Really consistently. So lower the pitch. Make sure you're staying E. Make sure you're not saying eh. So it's not really consistently, really consistently. And that's going to really help you achieve a more natural sound. Other words like city or pretty or happy. These are all more examples of final E sounds. It's a very common ending. Some other quick questions from Mahmoud. Thank you so much for joining us. Where is the placement to resonate at the mouth? So placement in American English, again, is going to generally be low, and you want to engage your diaphragm. If you look at our main page, we have a playlist that's just dedicated to breath. It's going to talk about ways to incorporate your diaphragm even more. So again, if you go to youtube.com/Fluent American on the homepage, scroll down, it's going to say breath exercises or something like that. It's a whole playlist of sounds that are going to help you engage your diaphragm more. You want to make sure you're feeling your diaphragm and not just projecting from your lungs. Okay, so you really want to project from a lower position. I have 3 more tips for you guys. Take a look at our third one here.
we talked then. I told him then that.
So again, we talked then. I told him then. Hello also to Guy and Nika. Thanks so much for being here. Let's play that third one again.
We talked then. I told him then that.
So many reductions here. You guys are probably already familiar with this, but in American English, words are getting reduced and shortened and said faster in so many ways to become weaker. This is a natural feature in American English. You cannot pronounce every single word perfectly. In fact, the clearer your English is, in a lot of ways, the less natural it is. Where are all the reductions?
We talked then. I told him then that
reductions here I want to mention. Instead of saying told him with a strong H sound, she doesn't say told him. First of all, she says told him, I told him, told him. So we're dropping the H and moving right to the M sound. I told him, I told him. This is a very common feature when we have pronouns that start with an H or a TH. Very often those letters are completely removed and we just move on to the M sound. We see this, for instance, with them. We see this with him. I told him. That can be either, depending on context. We see this with her. I told her. So instead of I told her, it becomes I told her. Again, another frequent situation.
we talked then. I told him then that
Another reduction we see here is that very often in American English, the TH disappears. I know everyone focuses so much on THs, but the reality is very often it's reduced or even removed entirely.
we talked then. I told him then that
she doesn't say told him then. She says I told him then. She actually uses like an N sound. Told him then. Told him then. Instead of told him then.
we talked then. I told him then that
super common reduction that you're going to find in American English with when you have an N sound or an M sound that comes before a TH, oftentimes that TH will just get removed and replaced with an M or an N. Just a note. So for instance, told him then or and then. That's another quick example. Hello to Mohammed. Thanks for checking in. Good to see you. And we know the question. Article says sound resonates at the back of the mouth. I mean, the air is going to certainly move through there. And a lot of times you want to make sure the back of your tongue isn't too high to make sure enough air is moving through. But in general, when you're speaking in American English, you're trying to engage your diaphragm. To give you a quick example of this, breathe in through your nose and then say like a sh sound. So like do you feel that as you do that, you can feel your stomach? Right around there, you feel that contracting, right? So in general, when you're speaking in American English, you want to feel that contraction when you talk. There's other ways to do this. So for instance, when you're talking, you can take your knuckles and put them on your ribs, okay? And what happens when you breathe in, notice it expanded. And then when I breathe out, everything contracts again. So something you can do is you can say a whole sentence, repeat it a couple times, and you're going to see if you're engaging your diaphragm, what you're going to notice is you're going to get a contraction. To give you an example, I live in the US, I live in the US, I live in the US, I live in the US. You can hear that my voice quality, it was lacking a lot of that warmth and resonance. And so that was, you didn't see any movement. My hands stayed put, right? Now I'm going to try to engage my diaphragm. Watch my knuckles. I live in the US. 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 So you can kind of see it. And I encourage you to do this for yourself and you'll experience it. So you can see that slow contraction inwards. So that's really your goal when you're speaking in American English. You want to feel that slow contraction inward. And that's going to be really, really helpful for achieving a natural sound. You can still be understandable and clear if you're using a higher placement, but you're going to lack that warmth and that resonance. Like, for instance, if I talk like this with a higher placement, this is my placement if I use my placement at the back of my throat, the back of my mouth, top of my throat. This is what it sounds like. Okay, you can understand what I'm saying. But now, this is my more normal placement for American English. It's lower, it's richer, you get more of that bass, more of that warmth, right? So that's just another example there. Okay, Mahmoud, if you have any questions about that, be sure to let me know. Chiggy's here. Hi, good to see you. I want to answer your second question here. What time is your location now? It is currently 9:15 p.m. We just never stop. We just always keep going. Fluent American. All right. First time I caught you live. I'm so excited. I recognize your profile picture, but I don't remember from when. But thank you so much. It's good to see you. We have, of course, a question. Thanks for remembering to keep having the proper placement. Yes. That is a great question. I think, Chica, it'd be great to know your specific situation. Some people have more preparation before they talk. So, for instance, let's say you're using English in a business setting. What I would encourage you to do, like before a meeting, what I would do is I would just do some quick breathing exercises, again, like that shh sound, or just again putting your hands on your ribs and just making sure you're feeling that movement. Okay. Another thing you can try doing is some pitch scales. So take a sound. So for instance, use like an E sound. So and just move it around a little bit. It's like E, 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 E. You can do the opposite, go high too. So like E, 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 E. So practicing that. If that's difficult or you want to add on to it, you can put that all together. It's like E, 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 E. Okay, so that's something I would encourage you to practice. By the way, that's an exercise that sounds easier than it actually is for a lot of people. You can also join the sounds together. So like, for instance, E, because we need those high ranges and we need the low ranges in American English. A lot of people are using a very limited range. So I would practice that. Another thing I would practice, again, just some breathing exercises. Another exercise you can do is check your posture. So make sure your shoulders are down and your chest is out a little bit. That impacts your sound. To give you an example, I'm going to say an E sound, and all I'm going to do is raise my shoulders and just note how the sound changes. Do this with me, and you can feel it for yourself. So, for instance, I didn't change anything about my mouth position. The only thing I did was raise my shoulders, and you can immediately hear the difference. So that's another thing you can do, is just make sure you're using good posture. Trying to think of a last exercise that you can do. I had one, but then it's completely slipped my mind. But hopefully that's enough to get you started. Oh, what I would say, especially like if you're doing like Zoom meetings, or if you have a computer at work, what I would do is I would take a Post-it or a piece of paper, and I would write down placement. And then I would put that on my monitor. Like I would just put it like right here, like just like right on the screen, and make it small, but just to have those like constant reminders. You can also put notifications in your phone, just like every now and then, so it'll beep and say, "Hey, lower your placement," and things like that. Just some things to consider there. Thank you for that question. It's a great question. By the way, guys, I just want to mention something. If you're finding what we're doing right now helpful, these are types of things that we do in terms of native speaker analysis, placement analysis, but also having you on screen with me so I can listen to you, and then I can give you specific advice every single day of the week. Because I'll be honest, one of the things that makes the pronunciation difficult is it really is kind of something you need to study every day. Because if you take a day off, you're going to feel it. Your progress is going to be so much slower. And I have students that, they try to have classes with me, and they're doing like one class a week, maybe two classes a week. But think of it this way. If you're taking a pronunciation class for a half hour or for an hour a week, how many hours are in a week? There's 168 hours in a week. Okay. And you did one for pronunciation. That's just mathematically think about that, or if you think of how many hours are in a year, and if you just did 1 hour a day, then that only gives you 365 hours. Out of all the hours in a year, you did 365, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to downplay that. But we also need to be realistic. If your interest is progress and you're trying to speed things up and you want to notice the difference faster, then you need to practice a little bit every day. And I want to be here for you every day. So that's why I created this program called Mission English, where it's small group classes. It's in a private Facebook group, and all of the classes are saved. We just had our 220th class in Mission English, and we meet at these times. So they're all across different time zones, to try to find one that works for you. And each class is a half hour. So for instance, Monday, I just finished our Monday session. We do that at 8 p.m. New York. We also had one at 1:30 p.m. New York. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to be at 9:30 a.m. New York, then 1:30 p.m. New York. And you can see the rest of the times here. We also have a conversation class on Thursdays, just to kind of chill and get to know each other a little bit better. And then if you're preparing for a test like IELTS or TOEFL, we also do 30-minute writing sessions. I was an examiner for IELTS, so I'd be happy to guide you for writing. We do that during the weekends. So that's another thing to consider there too. All the classes are saved. And that's the other thing too, is that the most valuable time for studying pronunciation is not in a pronunciation class, it's afterwards. Because in class, I give you feedback and you think, okay, yeah, sure. Thanks for the feedback, Jeff. But in your head, you're like, I did the same thing that Jeff did. I didn't sound any different. But then you watch the replay of the class and you're like, oh my gosh, I sounded completely different than I thought. That's not me. So you really need the replays. And that's the value of the class, because all the classes are saved, so you can rewatch them again and again and repeat the exercises and do the feedback. So I encourage you, check out our Mission English program. It's available at fluentamerican.com. You can see that I always have trouble with the there right there in the corner. And it would be great to work with you. All right. Muhammad also asks question. How do I improve my English? Muhammad, that's a huge question. What part of your English are you trying to improve? The English has many skills, right? There's listening, there's speaking, there's pronunciation, there's reading, there's writing. What are you trying to improve? And why are you trying to improve it? Is it just for fun? Is it for work? Is it do you have a deadline you're coming up against? What's your motive? Also, how dedicated are you to improving your English? You know, lots of people say they want to improve their English. What are you willing to do to improve it? How much time are you putting in? I just mentioned, about time. Some people are saying they're doing an hour a day. Hour a day will get you 365 hours a year. Can you double that? Well, now you're almost at 800. You know what I mean? So let me know what I need to know more information about what your goals are. Otherwise, coming to streams like this can be helpful, but I need to know more about your specific needs. It's a hard question to answer. All right, guys, I have 2 more pieces of feedback for you. If you're excited, one way you can help me out again is doing this.
Like what you're hearing? Let us know by liking and subscribing.
Take a listen to our next clip.
And when we started doing Saturday services,
I'll play it one more time. What do you think I'm going to say?
and when we started doing Saturday services,
We're talking past tense endings. Started. One thing you can notice there is that she used an id sound, a short I plus a D. Started. Why did she do that? Because when you have a word that ends on a T or a D, then you're going to finish with an id sound. Started.
and when we started doing Saturday services,
And when we started doing, one other tip that a lot of teachers don't tell you about is when you're adding that id, you want it to be fast and you want it to be lower pitch, because it's not stressed. It's not started. No, it's started. Notice how fast it is, and notice how low the pitch is compared to start.
and when we started doing Saturday services,
Started doing, and when we started doing. So make sure you're lowering the pitch there and you're going fast. Be careful also with that short I sound to make sure you're not saying started, because a lot of people, instead of a short I, use an E sound. It's like started versus started. You want to make sure it's eh. This is going to happen when a word ends on a T or an ED, like started, needed, ending on a D sound, right? Needed, wanted. If. In other cases, for the past tense, you're going to use just a D sound. So, for instance, a word like buzzed, or played. If the sound before the ED is voiced, then you want to use a D sound. Voiced as in your throat vibrates. Like buzzed. You can hear that zzz. I can feel a vibration here. Zzz. Okay. Compare that to like kissed. When I say I don't feel any vibration here. So that means my ED will sound like a T. Kissed. Or like walked. Now we'll talk more about held sounds a little bit later, but that's just to get you started on your past tenses, how to get those sounding more natural. Let's take a listen to our last clip, last piece of advice.
For us to hear from a doctor that you
can hear that on doctor. What's so special about this?
For us to hear from a doctor that you
So in American English, the letter O very often, not always, definitely not always, but very often becomes an ah sound. Da. One progression I would encourage you to study is like ah, da, doctor, ah, da, doctor, ah, da, doctor. Notice that this is very different than British English, which has a higher placement. It's going to sound a lot more closed off in the mouth. There's not as much air moving through the body and the throat. So instead of doctor, you often get more like a doctor, doc, oh, versus ah. So American English really trying to open up and allow as much air to pass through as possible. Guys, those are 5 quick tips that you can start applying to your own speech for a more natural sound in American English. My name's Jeff with Fluent American. I will see you guys later. Be sure, again, if you found this helpful, one way you can help me is just by liking what you just watched. And also, if you're trying to get pronunciation feedback every single day, you're serious about your accent, you need to work on it every day. That's what our Mission English program is for. You can visit fluentamerican.com. Sign up. We would love to have you and work with you every single day of the week. We can get started soon. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day.